It's Friday. Congratulations. We made it. I made it through the week. You want to do something? All right. So this isn't really funny. I just want to say that. It is funny. There's a truth to it. And a bit narcissistic, as many of you know. I've glommed on to Bo Burnham's new special on Netflix, Inside, all about his journey during the apocalypse, or his non-journey, staying inside during the apocalypse. And this little video is kind of a commentary on that.
Did you watch the new Bo Burnham special? Yeah, it was hilarious. I related to everything. Everything? I mean, yeah. Are you okay? No, not
really. All right. Well, I have funnier bits coming up, everyone. Don't worry. I have funnier bits coming on. My name is Andrew Hall. You can call me Dr. Kennard. What are we talking about today? We're going to talk about, I want to take a step back before getting into the news cycle and just reflect on the virtues of being a jerk. Not just a jerk but there's something called, and tell me if I'm wrong, chat, there's something about being a virtuous jerk, right? A jerk for a higher purpose. A jerk serving the better angels of our nature. And what does that have to do with anything whatsoever? It has to do with Florida and the condominium collapse. I'm going to rip up the script. That's what I'm doing. I'm ripping up the script. Typically, I go into memes. I say hello to the chat, but this is so important. I'm just going to talk about being a jerk and how important it is vis-a-vis the Florida condo collapse. Most of you have already heard about this. It's been plastered on the news. Here's a picture of the 12-story oceanfront Chaplain Tower South condo collapsed at 3 a.m. in the morning. Collapsed Miami condo has been sinking into earth as early as the 1990s, researchers say. Andy, button up that button. Make yourself look presentable, sir. It isn't that kind of show. All right, let's take a look. A Florida high-rise that collapsed early Thursday was determined to be unstable a year ago, according to a researcher at Florida International University. The building, which was constructed in 1981, has been sinking at an alarming rate since the 1990s, according to a study in 2020 by Shimon. I'm going to go with Shimon Woodvinsky, a professor in the Department of Earth and Environment. When the professor saw the news that the Chaplain Tower South condominium in Surfside collapsed, he instantly remembered it from the study. He said, I looked at it this morning and said, oh my God, we did detect that, he said. Oh, this is a long story, everyone. If you want to see the actual article, take a look at the description. After the show, of course, but it's a long piece. Highlights here. The county requires commercial and multifamily buildings to be recertified every 40 years. The process involves electrical and structural inspections for a report to be filed with the town. It was underway for the condominium building, but had not been completed, town officials said Thursday. But he knew, the professor knew, that the building's been sinking at 2 millimeters a year, approximately, since the 1990s. Now, there are far more, there are smarter people here in the chat. I'm looking at with my chat where I can see the chat. I can't look at the chat right now, but there are some engineers probably in the chat. And if you're just a homeowner, or possibly that a building doesn't sink. Like the south side of the building may not sink at the same rate as the north side of the building. And if you know that the building that's a problem. That's a problem, and you gotta be a jerk about it. You have to speak up. And oftentimes, when you choose to do the right thing, the virtuous thing. You become a virtuous jerk. The county requires commercial. All right. Let's take a look at the next slide. In 2015, a lawsuit alleged building management failed to maintain an outside wall, resulting in water damage and cracks. The owner who filed that suit had previously sued over the same issue, according to a court filing. The management company paid for damages in the earlier case, according to the records. Cracked walls or shifting foundations can be clues that sinking has affected the stability of the structure. Yes, according to Matthias Levy, a consulting engineer, professor at Columbia University, and author of Why Buildings Fall Down, How Structures Fail. Yeah, it turns out that if part of the structure is falling or sinking at a different rate than the other piece of the structure, that alone creates catastrophic conditions. The data collected from 1993 to 1999 show that most of Miami area, and this is about Miami in general, I don't know if you know this, but all of Florida is probably going to be underwater, except for the Panhandle at some point. When you look at the projections about climate change and sea level rise, the streets of Miami are regularly flooded, with a bit of salt water from the Gulf. So this is what is happening in that area in general. The data about the sinking of Miami, collected from 1993 to 1999, show that most of the Miami area was not sinking appreciably, save for a few hotspots. Vodinsky said that most of those occurred in the western part of Miami, where the elevation is lower. The level of sinking at the Champlain condo was unusual, he said. See, that's the salient part, everyone. The level of sinking at the Champlain condo was unusual, he said. The professor said he doesn't believe anyone in the city or state government would have had a reason to be aware of the findings in the study. The bulk of it focused on potential flooding hazards, not engineering concerns. The study's mention of the 12-story condominium was relegated to a single line. We didn't give it too much importance. Vindwinski said, I don't know. I don't think he comes out looking good, Professor what's his name? Vindwinski, the professor there, the one who executed the study. If you know the building is sinking at 2 millimeters a year, at least, and this has been going on for decades, I think you got to be a jerk about it. I don't think what you do is put one line in about the condo. I think you got to take your pot. Okay, you need a pot, like a pot and pan, and bang your spoon, a big spoon, maybe a wooden spoon, probably a metal spoon, because I think that makes it a bit louder. But that's what you got to do. And in life, my fellow skeptics, atheists, secularists, humanists, you got to be a jerk. You got to be a jerk and yell it loud. Right? All right, that was my venting. I'm going to now engage with the chat and say hello to everyone. 29 comments, so much to cover. All right. I did write a post this morning, by the way. I posted it in the chat from my blog, Laughing in Disbelief. It's about how to deal with your irritating family members. Because, we're now heading into post-COVID life, or that's what a lot of people are calling it. And now we have to engage with irritating family members. So I wrote a post, a comical post, hopefully, about how to deal with family members, reintegrating yourself into the family structure. Dr. Mordecai, good to see you. Hope you're doing well this morning. John Hudson, always a pleasure to see John Hudson. Simply Secular Dave from the West Coast. I just want to take a moment right now that we do an open room at 10 o'clock. I have a work thing today at 11, so I'm going to end the open room early at 10:30 because I literally have to run out the door minutes after that. So just that's an announcement, I guess. Lee Spanner, good morning. Good morning to you and the sun. Tobin Templeman, put a smile to my face, right? Wild Eden, pleasure. Florida, right, Lee? Florida. Someone knew. The fact that someone knew. There's this meme going around that every single horror story, every single catastrophe story begins with people not listening to a scientist. There's a corollary to that, is that the scientist has to be loud about the information that they find. Derek Cruz, good morning, Derek. Well, you're right, John Hudson. They were building on reclaimed wetland. All right. Cat the Humanist, good morning to you. Good morning. Yeah, I think I can make it till 10:30 today, Dave. But thanks for the reassurance. All right. So 10:30 on Sunday nights, I do the late show most of the time, right? This Sunday, I have a great guest on, Steve Hill. He's a member of the Satanic Temple. He's also running for public office in the state of California. Steve's been on the show before. He's a comedian. He's a former Marine, former prison guard. He is hilarious. I love having Steve on the channel, and I want to promote his running for public office. He's running for state representative in California. So he's going to be on the show at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. If you want to show up, you can interact with Steve on the chat. You can hang out with us, have a good time. And if you can't be with us at 10:30 p.m. Eastern this Sunday, then you can always watch it afterwards. So, all right, that's Sunday. I also finished a video. It's a short 2-minute video. I don't think it sucks. I only showed it to one person so far, Wes. And Wes made the thumbnail for me for the video. I'm dropping it tomorrow. I probably will not be able to do a premiere of it because I am busy tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. I am doing my pub crawl for my birthday. And so I'm going to be dropping the video sometime Eastern time in the morning. But I'm not unhappy with it. And the name of the video is The 7 Bible Verses Destroying America. So that's coming out tomorrow on this channel, probably around 11 a.m., maybe 10:30. I'm not sure yet. All right. So what are the other stories we're covering today? We just covered Florida. We're going to talk about COVID in Israel. We're going to talk about Dr. Fauci having to take a bath. Talking about Canada and just Canada. I mean, the thing is, usually when we talk about Canada, it's usually in a positive light. Look, healthcare and things are going okay, but about the COVID crisis up there. But this is going to be a story about new bodies being found, children's bodies from the residential schools. And then, of course, we're going to touch on infrastructure. Did you see my thumbnail for this video? Infrastructure meow. I don't know. I liked it. All right. So let's do memes first, everyone. I jumped into the news cycle because I really wanted to talk about how important it is to be a jerk. But we're going to be doing memes. And in case you're watching this on the Facebook group that I'm an admin for, Atheist Comedy Burrito, then you can head on over to the Laughing in Disbelief YouTube channel and you can join us in the chat. Because when, I can't really see the chat from any I can't interact with you if you're on Facebook. But if you want to come on over to the Laughing in Disbelief YouTube channel, then you can join us in the chat. All right. You want to do memes, everyone? It's Friday. We got to have memes, right? All right. Is this really a funny meme? Well, the other two ones. This is a setup. All right. This is more of a truism than funny. A great many people think they are thinking when they are merely rearranging their prejudices. William James, everyone. Of course, that's the brother of Henry James, the American psychologist, right there. I saw that and I felt I had to share it. Now this, you will probably find comical, maybe a little disturbing, maybe a little disgusting. But just as the previous image showed us a certain type of truth, so does this one. There's Mr. Ted Cruz. And there's Donald Trump, maybe with a load in his pants. It looks like he has a load in his pants. All right. I'm sorry for that. I did warn you that it was going to be off-putting. The last image, the last slide here. Let's take a look. Some people will never care about how much I love my cat. It's okay, though. My cat doesn't care either. Oh, it's so true, everyone. More true than not. Did you hear that Rudy Giuliani got his law license suspended in New York State? Yeah, we're going to be talking about that too. That's some good news. Hope Wes is doing. See Wes over there. Wes created the thumbnail for the new video that I'm dropping tomorrow. And Wes is the only person besides myself. Well, I sent it to the girlfriend too, but she hasn't given me her opinion about it yet. But yeah, new video tomorrow, 7 Bible verses destroying America. All right. Let's talk about, what is this? This is the, okay. So Israel says the Delta variant is infecting vaccinated people, representing as many as 50% of new cases, but they're less severe. I saw this story. Before I want to talk about me for a minute. I made choices, real decisions about what I'm doing for work, and based on this story, because I'm kind of healthy, but there are people in my life who are not medically fragile, but if they catch it, even if they're vaccinated, I'm concerned. So seeing this story, I decided to double down on the job that I'm doing right now and just increase my hours, because I feel that I'm going to have less of a chance of getting infected, even if I am vaccinated. And even if it's a mild case for me, if I spread it, it may not be a mild case for the people around me. So I've decided to keep this job while forgoing other job opportunities. I think that's only reasonable at this time. But let's actually get into the real story. As Israel faces a surge in cases driven by the Delta variant, its health officials suggested that as many as half of new cases were among people who'd been vaccinated. Fully vaccinated people who've come in contact with the Delta variant will have to quarantine. Jessi Bear, the Director General of Israel's Health Ministry, said Wednesday, Haaretz reported. Even though the number is low, the fact that this is reaching vaccinated people means that we are still checking how many vaccinated people have been infected, Levy said, according to Haaretz. Levy told the state broadcaster can bet that about 40 to 50% of new cases appear to be people who have been vaccinated. He did not appear to specify a time frame for the new cases. The figure is likely to be an estimate, as the ministry is still analyzing the cases. On Monday, Levy said that a third of the new daily cases were people who had been vaccinated. It isn't clear if these people had been fully or partially vaccinated. An analysis by UK health officials found that 2 doses of Pfizer's vaccine were 88% effective against Delta, while a single shot was 33% effective. That is significantly lower, by the way, with a single shot of effectiveness against Delta than against the regular garden variety coronavirus. That's compared with 95% efficacy against the original strain, or 52% after 1 shot. But no vaccine is 100% effective, and so breakthrough cases are still possible. With other variants, breakthrough infections are typically mild. That's if you're vaccinated. I know we talk a lot about COVID here, but the thing is, we're still in this fog of war. There's still this unknowingness about what's going on with COVID. New information is coming in, and so I feel as I try to be responsible, everyone. And so I want to share these stories with you. Lone Wanderer's Bunker. How you doing? Who is going to represent me when I start doing white-collar crime now that Rudy is gone? Depending on the state that you're in, Rudy may still be able to represent you. Lone Wanderer's Bunker. So that is still possible. just not in New York right now. All right, I'm going to take a coughing break because I'm going to silence my mic for a second. I'm sorry. Wonders of live show. All right. Wow. Well, it's the thing is, people think that they're healthy. Nathan Lent, Dr. Nathan Lent, who's been on the channel and talked about evolution and talked about how, we'll just say he talked about evolution. Healthy guy, but exercises, eats healthy. But yeah, he caught coronavirus and it knocked him on his ass, for lack of better phrasing. I think that's a medical term. Knocked him on his ass. All right. What else are we doing? We already talked about Florida. We're going to talk about Fauci, everyone. About the insanity. You think you know everything about how insane things were during the height of the coronavirus, or you think that you are aware of how crazy things got. But, as new information comes out, it turns out, no, there's like, it's like a crappy Christmas present. A nest, like nesting dolls of crap, right? You think to yourself, wow, this is pretty crappy, but then you open it up and then it's like, oh, there's a whole nother layer of crap. And so I don't know if you all saw this story. Let's take a look at it. Anthony Fauci was hosed down naked in what looked like a kiddie pool after being mailed mysterious white powder. Strange but true. Last summer, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease Chief Anthony Fauci was reportedly sent mail containing white powder that literally blew up in his face, political rights, per a preview of the new book, Nightmare Scenario. I am not going to try to pronounce their names. Just letting you all know that. Fauci believed the mysterious white substance to be one of three things: a prank to scare him. All right. Not too dangerous. Anthrax that would make him seriously ill, but which he could probably survive, or ricin, which would make him a dead duck. Most of us know ricin from Breaking Bad. That was the poison of choice by Heisenberg, Walter White. Right? That's how I know ricin, at least. Luckily, chemical testing came back negative for both anthrax and ricin, but not before Fauci was down to his skivvies in a chemical lab, standing naked in what looked like a kiddie pool while his team awaited results, per Politico. Man, that's Dr. Fauci just having to work under Donald J. Trump and then having mail blow up and having him, having white powder all over him without knowing what that white powder was. Amazing the man didn't have a heart attack. Yes. Good morning, Rage. Been hearing righties say Fauci invented COVID. He personally made the virus. There's a lot of conspiracy theories swirling around Fauci. Unfortunately, it's a crazy story, but not too surprising that someone sent him a prank package of white powder that just blew, did the all over him. At least it wasn't ricin. At least it wasn't anthrax. Simply Secular Dave goes, when your doctor looks at your test results and says, I'm not sure that a lot of things that you are eating are actually food, you might want to consider a lifestyle change. Yeah, this is true. Well said, Simply Secular Dave. All right, so what are we doing here? It's halftime tummy rub show. Is it that time? If you're new here, halfway through the show, I'd like to show a funny video. Please hit the like button. I haven't said please hit the like button. It's on my list, actually, of things to do at the halftime tummy rub show. Please hit the like button, everyone. All right, let's do something funny because it's Friday.
Do you have any kids?
Houseplants,
That's what I got.
houseplants,
That's what I want.
houseplants,
Don't have to buy them clothes.
houseplants,
That's what I can afford. I mean,
Houseplants.
do I look like a billionaire to you? Are you kidding me?
Houseplants.
Kids?
houseplants.
I should have just gotten houseplants, everyone. No, I'm very happy to have two wonderful children. Really. At all times, I'm happy that I have children and not houseplants. Yes, I will say that my cat Biscuit is always happy to see me when I walk in the door. She maybe she has some dog DNA in her, but she's at the door when she's on a little cat tree right by the door. She comes and greets me. Yeah, she might be trying to escape too, but houseplants might be a feasible option for those of you who don't want kids. All right, next story, everyone. Canada. This is not a feel-good story. Probably give you the rages a bit. I know it does with me. And we've been covering this story for a while. And you know what? I just made a mistake, and I just hit the button that makes me go choppy, but I think I'm safe. All right, so let's do this thing. Is this the story? No, that's the infrastructure deal. It's this horrible tale. In Canada, another horrific discovery of Indigenous children's remains. I've made a promise to myself not to say anything about the two Catholic churches that have been burned in Canada recently. Now, I'm definitely not going to say that I approve of it at all. But let's get to the next story. Let's delve into this, because I have feels about this. Calgary, Alberta. The remains of as many as 751 people, mainly Indigenous children, were discovered at the site of a former school in the province of Saskatchewan. A Canadian Indigenous group said Thursday, jolting a nation grappling with generations of widespread and systematic abuse of Indigenous people. The discovery, the largest one to date, came weeks after the remains of 215 children were found in unmarked graves at the grounds of another former boarding school in British Columbia. Both schools were part of a system that took Indigenous children in the country from their families over the period of 113 years. 113 years. I'm going to say it one more time. Mother effing 113 years. Sometimes by force. Once again, 113 years, sometimes by force. I'm saying it again because it is so despicable, and the point needs to be driven home. And house them in church-run boarding schools where they were prohibited from speaking their languages. Breathe, Andy. Just breathe. That's all I have to do. A National Truth and Reconciliation Commission established in 2008 to investigate, expose, and document the history of consequences and history of the residential schools called the practice cultural genocide. You could just call it regular genocide too, or at least mass killings. All right, maybe not genocide, but mass killings. Many children never returned home, and their families were given only vague explanations of their fates or none at all. Canada had about 150 residential schools, and an estimated 150,000 Indigenous children passed through the schools between their opening around 1883 and their closing in 1996. 1996. Most of us were alive in 1996. What was I doing in 1996? I was unhappily married in 1996. And they were closed in 1996. This was a crime against humanity, an assault on a First Nation people. Chief Bobby Cameron, the Federation of Sovereign of Indigenous Nations, the Provincial Federation of Indigenous Groups, said during a news conference Thursday, the only crime we ever committed as children was being born Indigenous. It's unclear how the children died at the church-run schools, which were buffeted by disease outbreaks a century ago, and where children faced sexual, physical, and emotional abuse and violence. Some former students of the schools have described the bodies of infants born to girls impregnated by priests and monks being incinerated. The commission estimated about 4,100 children went missing nationwide from the schools, but an Indigenous former judge who led the commission, Murray Sinclair, said in an email this month that he now believed the number was well beyond 10,000. Florence Sparvier, 80, an elder of the Cowes First Nation said she attended 2 residential schools, including Mariaval, the school where the unmarked remains were found. They were very condemning about our people, she said, of the nuns at the schools. They told us, our people, our parents, our grandparents didn't have a way to be spiritual because we were all heathens. IO policy. If I can't say something funny, I try to be honest. And if I can't be honest because they'll kick me off of YouTube, I will just do punctuated moments of silence. That's the policy, by the way, microphone. I'm talking to the microphone. That's my official policy, viewers. Like Kamloops, the Mariaville School, which opened in 1899, was operated for most of its history by the Roman Catholic Church for the government of Canada. Oh, my fictitious God. This gets worse, actually. A marked cemetery still exists on the grounds of the school, which closed in 1997 and was subsequently demolished. The commission called for a papal apology for the role of the church, which operated about 70% of the school. The rest were run by Proddies. But despite a personal appeal from Trudeau to the Vatican, Francis has not taken that step. By contrast, the leadership of the United Church of Canada, the country's largest Protestant denomination, apologized in mother effing 1986 for its roles in running the schools. You know, the Proddies apologized in 1986 for running the schools. Decades later, the good Pope, the kind Pope. Of course, he's only a kind and good Pope because it's a sliding scale of popes. He's, graded on a curve, and the last guy was a rat bastard. The Catholic Church still hasn't apologized. And to tell you the truth, if anyone's paying retribution, if anyone is paying restitution, part of that should be coming from the church, as well as the state, of course. Wow. All right. Let's see how the chat's doing. What's up, party heathen? She just came at the high point of the laughs here. Yeah, Rage, right? Really, how can you not? There are people who are like complaining about, like, how can you? Why are you so negative about faith? And it's like, well, you pay attention. You just pay attention to what's going on. And how can you not be critical? And how can you not be angry about this? Jesus works in evil ways. And well said, Dr. Mordecai. Well, yeah. Rage, especially from someone who, I'm just a white guy, right? I'm about, my joke is my 23 me test came back and, it just turns out I'm white. And it's more true than not. But for someone who has Native people, who's a descendant of Native peoples, who's part of Native peoples, I don't even know. I don't even know how I would cope with this story. All right, I'm checking out the chat. Well, yes, John Hudson, it is unfortunate. It's horrible story, but surprising. Yeah, not. The butchering of the indigenous people have been a goal since Jesus came to the Americas. Yep. Yeah, true enough. All right. How are we going to pivot from this story to something positive? Well, I did set it up earlier. Rudy Giuliani has his law license suspended in New York State. And the chances of him getting fully suspended or getting it taken away, that he'll never be able to practice law again in New York State, there's a good chance of that, everyone. So let's take a look at this video. Watch me hit a couple of buttons. pregnant pause, and
today we have yet another personal attorney for Donald Trump being suspended. Suspended by the state of New York from the practice of law, pending a proceeding which will decide if he is permanently disbarred. Rudy Giuliani's law license was suspended today by a unanimous panel of judges in the appellate division of the New York State Court. They said, quote, "We conclude that there is uncontroverted evidence that respondent, meaning Giuliani, communicated demonstrably false and misleading statements to courts, lawmakers, and the public at large in his capacity as lawyer for former President Donald Trump and the Trump campaign in connection with Trump's failed effort at re-election in 2020. These false statements were made to improperly bolster respondent's narrative that due to widespread voter fraud, victory in the 2020 U.S. presidential election was stolen from his client. We conclude that respondent's conduct immediately threatens the public interest and warrants interim suspension from the practice of law pending further proceedings." Now, the pending further proceedings part there is important. Mr. Giuliani's license to practice law is suspended. He is not permanently disbarred, at least not at this point. He may yet have hearings before the court at which he can contest this decision and seek to have his law license reinstated. But the court today went out of their way in this unanimous opinion to say that they don't think he's going to prevail, even after there are hearings. They said, quote, "We find that there is evidence of continuing misconduct. The underlying offense is incredibly serious, and the uncontroverted misconduct in itself will likely result in substantial permanent sanctions at the conclusion of these disciplinary proceedings." Substantial permanent sanctions, meaning this is an interim suspension, but ultimately when we get to the end of this, he's likely to be disbarred.
From head to bite, every shade, Rashida?
That's it.
disbarred. Now that should put a smile on your face, right? After the horrible stories we covered. Rudy Giuliani disbarred in the state of New York, where he was mayor. You know, the city that he was mayor for quite a while. He will never be able to practice law again in that city or in that state. That's hope. I have hope. I don't have hope a whole lot, to tell you the truth. But I'm hopeful of that day, of him not being able to practice law permanently in New York State. I hope that there are other states that would disbar Rudy Giuliani. That would be pleasant. I'm just looking at the chat on right now. When I share a video, my chat kind of goes frozen from what I can see. And it takes a minute or two for it to be able to catch up with everyone in the chat. But I have my iPad right here so I can see. John Hudson says, "Who sweats black ooze? The man is so wrong." In so many ways. So many ways, Rudy Giuliani. There is just something wrong with that man. All right, last story. Wow, we're blowing through stories today, everyone. The last story we are covering is the infrastructure bill. You know, you probably already heard about the infrastructure bill, right? It's obviously a compromise between Democrats and Republicans. Will we be getting universal basic income for people who have children? No, that was a real possibility of parents getting checks, monthly checks in the mail for helping with child expenses. That's not happening because the Democrats had a compromise, or the Democrats chose to compromise for the Republicans. Let's take a look at the story. Here it is. Here's what included in the infrastructure deal that Biden struck with the senators. Links are in the description, of course. And there's Joe Manchin, that effer. Fucker. I can say that, right? It's Friday. I can wantonly use the F word as much as I want to, right? All right, so let's get into it. The agreement focuses on investment, roads, bridges, and broadband internet, but does not include investments Biden has referred to as human infrastructure, including money allocated for children, childcare, and tax credits for families. And here's just some of the stuff here that you can see what the infrastructure money is going to be spent on. Roads and bridges, safety, public transit, all this is important since, of course, the United States of America really doesn't spend money on infrastructure. Why? Because of gridlock in the Senate and in the House in the past. So, more electric vehicles, that's great. Electric buses, that's great. But that's not the most important part of this infrastructure bill, in my personal opinion. Water right here, $55 billion. Broadband's important too. What a lot of people don't realize about our electrical grid, the only reason why many rural areas here in the States have electricity is because of the New Deal. There is no profit incentive for companies to have built the grid out into rural areas of the United States of America. It was because of socialism, because of the New Deal, that rural areas in the United States of America got electrified. The only reason why they're going to be getting broadband is because of socialism, because of federal government plans to give broadband to rural areas. But here's the high point. Once again, a high point is about water. One of the goals is to eliminate the nation's lead service lines and pipes delivering clean, that means non-poisonous, drinking water to up to 10 million American families in more than 400,000 schools and childcare facilities that currently don't have it, including tribal nations and disadvantaged communities. So does that mean that, okay, so let's unpack this statement, right? And by the way, this was buried in this article. That means right now, there are more than 400,000 schools and childcare facilities that maybe have lead water going into theirs. That really lead water? Lead, the lead, as we all know, as we've touched on, I don't know, hundreds of times at this point, causes brain damage. There is no safe level of blood for a kid. There's no safe level. And if you're a parent, if you're not anxious a bit about it being here in the States, where you still have many pipes lined with lead, especially when you consider the Flint water crisis with just basically poisoning an entire community. If you're not somewhat anxious about that, I think you're living on a different planet, to tell you the truth. So the money is going to help get rid of those lead pipes so that we're not poisoning a further generation of Americans. And Mike, when you look at how crappy the country's gotten over the years, right? About how irrational people have gotten, microphone. About why do people believe this nonsense? How can you not draw some? How can you not think that maybe the lead in rural areas have been damaging brains so that QAnon conspiracies make sense, so that talking snakes make sense? I don't think that's a leap of logic. I think that's a hop, skip, and a jump, to tell you the truth, microphone. Yes, public health, advocating and doing good public health is probably the most important thing we could do to get rid of evangelical Christianity, to get rid of fundamentalist Christianity, to get rid of QAnon over the long term. Just getting rid of lead pipes. Safe water, safe food, safe air. The bipartisan deal is just the beginning of what could be a long and difficult process. Biden told reporters Thursday that he will not sign any legislation unless it is paired with a separate bill to address other elements of his broader infrastructure proposal. I don't believe him. I do not believe him at all. It is unclear at this point whether the parallel process has enough Democratic support to pass without Republican votes. As we all know, there are ways of getting past the filibuster in the Senate. That's via reconciliation, but you need every single Democratic senator to be on top of that. To do reconciliation, you need 50 senators. And that means getting Manchin and that woman from the senator from Arizona on board if you're going to pass anything via reconciliation. And that's tough to do. You got to check out the chat. Oh boy, chat's still frozen. Checking out the chat on my iPad. Lee says maybe drinking water in church is where lead is fed by the spoonful has brought about the right wingers. Well, that's not crazy to say that, Lee, to tell you the truth. Yeah, John Hudson, lead, exactly. Well, the girl, it's an interesting question, right? The girlfriend mentions in the chat that maybe if we didn't give rural America electricity and the internet, they would be able to spread their crazy ideas. It's a long-term fix. It's a long-term fix of making people's lives less miserable. If you create a society where people's lives are less miserable, more than likely they will be less miserable over time. All right. Are we going to do something? All right. So 45 minutes. I just want to point out again, the after party after show, which begins at 10, running for half an hour today. The link is in the description in case you want to be on the panel. We talk about anything and everything. Sometimes we have 2 people. Sometimes we have 3 people. The other day we had like 7 people at one time. We're all pretty polite, I'd say, and don't talk over each other mostly. We're veterans here. We know how to do this thing. So let's do something funny before putting a bow on the show.
If you get food through DoorDash from the same place where you get your gas, what's your life like? I gotta know. 'Cause I'm not saying the gas station food can't hit the spot when you're in the mood. You're just paying too much for that 6-hour-old breakfast wrap.
Man's an artist, everyone. All right. So I'm going to put a bow on the show. Stories that we covered, in case you're just tuning in and you want to see the show in its entirety. We talked about the importance of being a jerk, of speaking up when you see trouble, the implosion, the destruction of the Florida condo right in Miami or outside of Miami. There are people who knew that the thing's been sinking for 2 millimeters every single year. And it's important to speak up loudly. We covered Israel, and 40 to 50% of the new COVID cases are people who've been vaccinated. Sure, they're not getting deathly ill, but Delta variant is creating 40 to 50% of the new COVID cases in Israel. Fauci, we covered Fauci and how someone pranked him and it was horrible for Fauci. Canada, it's Friday. It's Friday. And I just want to go to my pub crawl. I just want to do my pub crawl at this point, everyone. I got to do a training today. We talked about the infrastructure bill and mother effer microphone. We knew about lead for centuries. No. We knew about lead for thousands of years. People knew in Rome. People knew that the dudes who were working in the lead mines, they didn't come out right. Something was wrong with them, with their thinking parts. Okay. New videos dropping on Saturday. Short 2-minute video. I think it's pretty tight, though. 7 Bible verses destroying America. Steve Hill, comedian, member of the Satanic Temple. He's running for public office, running for state rep. He's coming on the Late Show at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. After party, after show. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. I hope people are. Yeah, I hope I'm making everything okay. That's all I'm trying to do. Microphone. I'm just trying to make things okay. So after party, after show, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. All right, I'm rambling. I'm babbling. I'm about to throw this piece of paper, and that's what I just did. Thank you, patrons. Thank you, members, for supporting whatever I do here in this space and on my blog, of course. Laughing in Disbelief. Let's do the thank you video.